Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens, the screenwriting step-by-step project, session 245. My name is Glenn Gers, and I come to you every Monday through Friday, if I can make it, at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time Zone, to let you look over my shoulder, share my screen as I write a script. I'm doing this in order to teach a part of screenwriting that I think is undertaught in the screenwriting teaching universe, which is the process. I'm trying to demystify the process by which you get from vague thoughts and hopes and ambitions into an outline, into a rough draft, into a readable draft. That's a line-by-line, day-by-day process. And I'm not saying that you should use my process. The point of doing this is to make you think about your process, because process is how you solve writing problems. You don't solve them with a finished answer. You can't find a formula. The only way that a professional writer learns how to solve problems is by figuring out their process. And then they apply that process as best they can to whatever problem comes their way. So therefore, this is not the best process. It's not the only process. It's the one I worked out for myself in a 25-year career writing for TV and movies, and I thought if you could watch me walk through it, it might help you figure out stuff you need to do for yourself. These are just tricks, tools, techniques for you to try out, use if they fit you. Because every writer is different, every project that every writer writes is different. All you got when you're looking at the blank page is your process, and thus we are teaching that. If you want to know what I really have to tell you, go to my channel and look at the first 3 playlists: Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills, and Craft, and the process, being a writer. That is where the goodies are. That is where the absolute gems, where I took a topic like genre or flashbacks, I made it the thumbnail. It's really easy to see. And then I tried to get 10 minutes worth of the most useful, simple to grasp tricks and tools and skills that I know for you to use. Try them out. It's just 10 minutes. It's free. It's there when you want it. All right. Howdy, something else. Howdy, Nathan. Yes, another day. Just another Friday. Hello, 99 Precinct. And hi, Trash Compactor. You figured it out, huh? You made it. Excellent. I am so glad. This is great. Good to see all of you and to be seen by all of you as I get back to work on this darn pitch document, which I was really glad to take a break from yesterday. Didn't ask me anything. So here's the deal. Oh, I remember what we were doing. We had to figure out, where is it? Where is it? Yes, I'm scrolling. Don't panic. If you have vertigo, wait a second. I will find the place I'm looking for. All right, somewhere in here. Okay. In order to put together the summary of the season, I need to know what happens to every character, and I don't. Okay, so here's the deal. For each character, I need to figure out what is the core of their story. For instance, with McLean, I need it to be a coming-of-age story. So the question is, what is his coming-of-age story? So what I'm doing now is I'm just brainstorming this question. How does he grow? How does he come of age? Hey, Gene, good to see you. All right. This season is his coming of age story. Now, what is a coming of age story? What are the hallmarks of it? Okay, so this season, this is the key for me right now, is coming of age story. I have to just start to think of him that way. He's got this magic detective brain. He's got just a freakishly skilled Sherlock Holmesy brain. He can Sherlock Holmes the hell out of stuff. But he, as we've seen, but he is socially awkward, like most of us. And that's why we like him. That's the thing. And is this a cliche? The socially awkward person who has a superpower? Yeah, it's a cliche. But sometimes, especially with secondary characters, you lean into the cliche. You use the cliche. You give it some heart and some originality. There's nothing wrong with cliches. Cliches work. Don't kid yourself. Cliches are not to be trifled with. The question is how to make them good. Okay. He needs to get involved, not necessarily romantically. I don't think he can get not romantically with Cameron. So the question is, so what I'm thinking here is they have to come of age together or help each other. All right. I know you said in the past that it's okay to write the background for each important character in my story because the actors will appreciate it. I didn't necessarily say write it into the script. It may be something you can show the actors if you get to actors. What I said was it's okay for you to write it for you because it may help you. If it helps you, it's okay. It's not bad to write it. You just have to watch out for writing the background instead of the story. Okay. I found myself writing about many different characters leading up to how they all come together, but I never seem to complete the story. Ah, there you go. You have fallen into the very trap I was trying to warn you about. Yes, that is exactly right. The background doesn't matter until you have the story. That's the point. If you are going to, for everybody here, if you are going to write background on something, if you're going to write their backstory or how they came to be who they are in this story, that's lovely. It's good to know. It may come up in conversation. But the main thing is, how does who they are apply itself in the scenes? They're all basic. Well, that means you have not wasted your time, but you are just still at the beginning of the key, which is think in scenes. Think in scenes. In other words, if you are thinking whatever you want to put into your story, think what scene does it go in? Okay? Think in scenes. If you have stuff that you want to put into this story and you can't find a place for it in the outline, because the outline is a list of scenes that are going to make up your story, then you've got a question to ask yourself, which is, how do I put this in the outline, or what does it have to do with the outline? It could be, it just doesn't have anything to do with it. It's nice for you to know, but the question is, what happens in your outline? That's the magic answer to this problem. Hi, Donna. Yes. I understand the temptation, the loveliness of telling everyone's backstory to yourself, but it is not in the script. If you've actually put it in the script, that's an interesting situation. For instance, if you have got whole sections of your script that are just backstory of each character, and they've basically taken over your screenplay, you essentially have to cut those out, put them in a separate document somewhere to hold on to, because it's not, you don't throw away stuff, but put it aside where you can keep it in an archive in the library to check. However, the main thing is, the question is, what are the characters doing in the outline, because that's where everything's going to happen. Like right now, we're doing this exact thing, so this will help. This is useful. We are looking at two characters, McLean and Cameron, okay? And we are saying, we are recognizing, okay, they have to have a coming of age story. Now, the important thing here, if you'll notice, is I am not asking, how did they get to this place? I am saying, what happens to them in our story? How do they come of age in the story? Okay, that's the question. Now, the first thing you want to do, boom, they come of age together. Help each other. So how do they do? What does that define it? In other words, what are things that? Hi, I see you, Donna. I'm gonna answer. I'm on a roll here about this character thing. If the question, for instance, is like, if you've got a character. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so no, the deal here is when you've got a character, like, I don't know how Cameron came to be who she is, but I need to know who they are in this moment. What is the problem they are facing? What do they want? See, and also, what are some classic coming of age things? I think it would be really cool if Cameron's coming of age is not about gender identity. I think it would be cool to do coming of age where that's fine. They've got that handled. Okay. The question is, what other things have to become of age? So this is where we start brainstorming, and this is really tricky because these are all side characters, and it seems like an awful lot of work to be putting into side characters, into secondary characters. But this is actually what makes scripts great, is if you spend the time not coming up with their whole backstory or all the other things about them, but saying, like, what are they doing in this story? What do we know about them, and what do we see them as needing in this story? What are they trying to do, or what do they end up trying to do? And so the question is kind of like what we have, what we know about them so far. What we know about them so far. McLean is gay and lonely. Cameron is young and aspires to sing. So, I just do that because it's shorter. And I'm trying to get my eyes to fix on the words that matter, not the and. However, you can't do that in real writing. This is in my notes. All right. So this is not a question. This is a fact. Okay, what are some classic coming of age things? Running away from home, conflict with parents, unrequited love, first love, breakups, betrayal or failure by friends, finding new friends. These are all, what I'm just doing is trying to think of what's in a coming of age story. Finding personal strength. claiming or coming out with your identity. And by that I mean like somebody wants to come out as a writer, come out as whatever. So, and then one of the things that you get to is when you're saying in the story, the question is, who is it with? For instance, these all things are happening, but you try not to add characters if you can help it. So who do they have a relationship with? For instance, Cameron is close to Xena, which is very useful. Now, McLean, it doesn't really seem to have a relationship with anyone. This is interesting. McLean gets close to Cameron. Interesting. I think the other thing we know about McLean, has lied to his boss to take time off. That's another thing. We've got a slight relationship, don't really, but he's got a relationship to his job. That's an interesting. These are the things you use what you have, work with what you've got. Don't try and add new things if you can use a thing you've already established. Okay, so here's a question. What is Cameron's home life like? Cameron appears to be accepted at home, which is fun. I like that. It's nice to not have every story be, just the same cliches. While I did speak about the value of cliches, it's also good to not just go with that. All right. Where are we here? So here's the thing. This is about McLean so far. So the question is, okay, so we know that McLean is, oopsie. Gay and lonely. Wanted to his boss to take time off. So what the thing we're looking for here is what are his distinctive actions, key actions in the story. So I want to portray a highly populated, bustling, diverse world. Me too. Just that's good. Just write that in the action transition line of the screenplay over. Just write that in the over having the main characters interact with many different people. In theory, if you are portraying a highly populated, bustling, diverse world, you're doing it. You don't have to say it in the script. In theory, by showing this world as busy, bustling, and diverse, by having that be happening in and around and with involving the characters, it will be just true. Yeah, you can always put a line in at the beginning, but I would say the main thing is when you say having the main characters interact with people. First of all, many different people just remember, don't just throw in characters for random points. What are they doing for the story? What do they have to do with the story? You are not going to do well with lots and lots and lots of characters. It's very expensive. It's very difficult to, like when you say many characters, like this story that I'm writing has many characters, and that's still only about 8 or 10. And that's over a series. Okay. So the that's okay, Ches. You don't have to watch it, but hello anyway to you, so good sir. Do your thing, do your stuff. We will be here if you ever want to watch it, and if not, you don't have to. It's okay. Life goes on. Live your lives. Do not spend time with me if you've got stuff to do. All right. So the answer, so trash compactor, the point is like what we're doing. Like I want to portray a bustle. When you say highly populated, I'm not sure whether you mean like population density, like the city of New York, or do you mean just your story has a lot of people in it? Because I think you'll discover one of the most important things is try to find a model. Try to find existing shows or movies that are like what you want to do, so that you can figure out how do they do it. Like how many characters do they have? How many, that will help. And what you'll notice is you don't want to just have a character who's there to show diversity. You want them to be doing something. They happen to be diverse, but the whole point is that characters should have actions in the story. And here's the main thing about McLean that I don't know yet. What does he do in the story? Like what? We know that he's really smart. We know that he's really good at detecting. So what does he figure out that no one else can? Or is his story something else? Is his story about the fact that, yeah, he knows he can do clues, he's got other values, he's got other things he wants in life. That's interesting too. Well, I know that he must, in the course of the story, he must figure out stuff that no one else can. Does that put him in conflict with work? That's one thing that we've got so far. It could be that he has to choose. He has to choose work or passion. Yeah. Well, that is an interesting thing. See, it seems like we're always going for like here he has to choose work or passion. What if he chooses work? Interesting. Yes, I believe it does put him in. He has to choose work or passion. These are things. Also, what if he gets advice from Cameron? See, if he's so smart, but Cameron knows stuff he doesn't, that's sort of cool. That's a useful thing, is that he may be able to, and this is sort of cliched, but if he is if he's essentially, well, this is a question, because if he's essentially socially awkward or doesn't read social cues, is he on the autism spectrum, or is it just why is he socially awkward? Why does he not know how to behave with the guy he meets on the train? Why is he socially awkward? Um, Yeah, that would be cool. If the point is that Cameron says, "Hey, you've got a good job. Don't throw that away for this thing you could still do from your work. Why are you making it into a choice of that you can do both. You're smart, you're fast, you're well off." That's interesting. Hmm. Yeah, I like that. That's a good story. That's a good, interesting story. All right, interesting, interesting. Hmm. Okay, we've got a little bit on McLean here. We don't know why. He comes close. What if Cameron just is like really like smart and together? Has had a lot of support and therapy and good education and parenting, and it's good. That might be fun to have Cameron just be like, this is all good. It works. That's interesting. Yeah, that's actually interesting. Um, too much information. Interesting. Um, yeah, yeah, that is interesting. Um, hmm. These are good things to start with. Um, okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Cameron and Zola. Okay. Camera and Xena. That's very important. So okay. Dundosky we got here. So let's move Dundosky up because he's solved. Boom. All right. Dundosky story. There we go. Okay. Then McLean, we're starting to get McLean. So let's talk about Cameron. All right. Um, interesting, interesting, interesting. Hmm. Okay. like this idea that Cameron is wise beyond their years. In which case, what is Cameron's story in this story? And once again, trash compactor. This is where like when you're coming up with theoretical truths about your characters, the question you have to keep asking is, how does that show up in the story? Because you must have, or maybe you don't, but if you don't, you should try and have some things, story related things that are set. Like to say, like in this story, I know that they're hunting a serial killer. I know that several of them are going to get killed. I know that, so that I've got these things that I know are going to happen. You begin to say, okay, how does this person who I know I have this about that I want to say, how does that connect to, relate to, involve itself with the thing I know is the story? That's what you have to keep asking yourself. What does this have to do with the story? Because otherwise it's going to be very hard to get it in. You're going to find that even if you write a great scene that is about this other thing, where do you put it? Between which scenes? What action does it relate to? What action is it? That's the important stuff that you keep asking yourself. Hi, Roddy. Oh, Roddy asked an interesting question, which I haven't gotten to answer yet, about copyright. So I'm just going to take a second. Roddy, Roddy said he's asking about copyright, and I had been saying, once again, don't use copy other people's copyrighted material like songs or clips from movies or whatever it is. Don't use that in your script because you don't have the right to. Roddy asked a good question, which is, what if I am doing something that includes a satire or parody of a copyrighted thing? In his case, an old TV sitcom. So, yeah, that's a good one. That is the seventh. What does it have to do with the story? Excellent. Yeah, you're very welcome. So, Roddy. So Roddy's question was, what if I have something in my story relates to a parody of a copyrighted thing? This gets into two answers. The first answer is, you do have the right to parody legally. And by the way, there is tons of stuff on the internet out there to read about copyright and what is and is not protected by copyright, and what is fair use. And you should be, if you have a question about that, you should research that. And if you have a really important question about that, you should find a lawyer who relates to that, because this is really important, not legal advice. I am not telling you where you are or are not safe for fair use. I don't know. But what I do know is, if you are doing something that is a satire on another thing, for instance, if you were going to make fun of, say, the Flintstones, which is an old American cartoon comedy show back in the 1960s, and if you were going to do, it was about cavemen. It was essentially, actually, interestingly, the Flintstones was a parody of the Honeymooners, which was an old sitcom from the 1950s. And for the animated show, the Flintstones, they said, what if we did the Honeymooners, but set in prehistoric times? And that was the takeoff point for the Flintstones. So therefore, the Flintstones' main characters match the four main characters of the Honeymooners. They match them in the sense that, like, one is tall and skinny, or one is actually short and skinny. One is big and burly. He's a little abrasive and obnoxious. Anyway, the point is, you are allowed to do that. You should be careful not to use... sorry, apparently the trash truck needs to back up. You should not, like, point by point, reproduce something even in a parody. A parody should distort, change, reinvent, and create, as well as refer. So that's the first level, is yes, you probably could do that. Um, the main thing is you think about why you want to do that. For instance, in the TV show Mr. Robot, there is a one episode which is in the form of a 1980s sitcom. It is filmed like one, and people behave like one, at least a large section of it, because it's a delusion of the character. He's seeing his family as a 1980s sitcom, or I guess 1990s. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, it's not based on a real one. It's based on all these types, because the types are very recognizable. Likewise, the show WandaVision, the series WandaVision, Disney Plus series, part of the Marvel universe, cinematic universe, is in the form of sitcoms for much of its show. Each week's episode is a parody of a style of sitcoms from a different era. Now, within that style, there are references to specific actual sitcoms, but they are not point by point taking on one or the other. They are saying, this type is what I'm parodying. So one of the things you might think about, Roddy, is, are you parodying a specific thing, a specific character, or a type? If it's the type, don't get hung up on the specifics, because that's actually going to be confusing. But the other thing about all of this that I want to talk about copyrighted material is, don't depend on it. That's my main thing. If you want to put song references into your script, knowing that they may be taken out, cool, you can do that. Why not? My point is, don't do something where like it's Baby Driver, where every single shot and action is dependent on the beats of the song. You only do that if you're writing and directing Baby Driver, having written and directed enough things that you can go to the company in advance and say, can we get the rights to these songs, because I'm using them shot by shot, moment by moment. Likewise, famously, Quentin Tarantino, when he did Reservoir Dogs, it's an early script of his, and he wrote a certain sequence in Reservoir Dogs in which a police officer is tortured along while a certain song plays on the radio, and the villain of the moment turns on the radio, hears this song, and his actions flow with the song. Quentin Tarantino famously said that he would not have put the name of the song in the script if he had known that what happened is, when the script was submitted to the company that had the rights for that song, they said, wow, this sequence really depends on our song, so we can afford to charge them much more than we ordinarily would, because they can't do this scene without this song. It's going to ruin the scene if he doesn't use this song. So we've got them over a barrel. Let's charge them much more money. So that's why, even if you have a song in mind, try not to put it in the script. You're only asking for trouble, especially if you are trying to make it intensely integral to the scene. That is not a good idea when you do not have the rights. If you want to refer to a type of music, or if you want to refer to a type of movie, or you want something that if you pull it out, another one can work. In my script Off Season, there's a song called, I can't remember the name of the song now. I Get Along Without You Very Well. It's a beautiful old song from the 40s, and it related, the mood of it and even the lyrics related to a character. So I had a character singing it because she was a aspiring nightclub singer. And they said, we can't get that song. But we got another song and it's like it. And you know what? It's fine. It is. It's absolutely fine. I mean, I had that oh my God, this is such a perfect song. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And it shouldn't. You should be able to replace it with one like it. That is my advice about copyright stuff. If you want to put copyrighted material into your script, make sure it can be pulled out and replaced with something else. That's the key. And you are welcome. Okay, hold on a second. The word ham boning, rhythmically slapping on the chest in an attempt to look tough, is that a common word yet? I have not heard it. I would say look it up on your nearest search engine. If it shows up as relatively easily found, put it in your script. Everyone who's reading your script will have a computer. If they want to know, they'll look it up. Okay, that's cool. I would, it depends. If it's really important that somebody know what they're doing, yeah, describe the action. If you just want to sort of like get a feeling for it, and this is once again very important, do not over-describe very precise things if they are not crucially important to the action of the scene. That's the thing. You want to say somebody ham bones or daps or waves or does a tap dance, whatever it is that they're doing, cool. Windmills, flosses, doesn't matter. The point is, if that is absolutely important because there's a literal symbolic information being passed, then name it and describe it, whatever. Most of the time, you're trying to get a feeling. You should not be telling the actors exactly what to do all the time. Okay. It must be hard to really write and direct like Tarantino. Well, it certainly is hard to write and direct like Tarantino, because only Tarantino can do that. That is why he is Tarantino. That is why anybody who's good is who they are, because the way they do it is the way they do it. It's hard to write and direct if you do not have those skills and are not working towards those abilities. They are different skills. Some people can do both. Lots of people can do both. Lots of people can't. There you go. Thank you very much. Okay, one more question, then I'm going to try and get back to the thing I was working on. How do you plan on writing 5-6 season-long shows? That's actually the thing I'm doing, so that's okay. Good question. Do you plan ahead on plot and ending, or do you think along the way? Your English is fine, totally get it. Very, very fair question. Here's the deal. This is what we are actually doing right now. What I'm doing in this document, this is what I call the pitch document, say pitch doc, okay? In a pitch doc, there's a series of things that I believe we need to accomplish. And I probably should, I have a checklist somewhere. In the pitch document, in your plan for the show, the question is, if you're planning a 5 or 6 season long TV show, how much do you plot out in advance? I would say loosely you want to plan out the advance, but you can't count on the number of seasons because that is a business decision which can change. And so it's very wise, even if you think you have the best deal in the world, if somebody's given you a contract for 7 seasons, they change the contract. They pull out on those contracts all the time. So the thing you don't know how many seasons, but you can say, in the course of this series, I want these people to slowly but surely take over state government in their state. Or I want these people to recognize that crime does not pay. Or, and so you have a basic goal, or at the end of this story, these people are going to be happily married. But until then, there's going to be all these things in between. Whatever it is, if you look at a show, for instance, Boardwalk Empire, it's a story about a guy who is a politician in Atlantic City in the 1920s when gangsterism was on the rise. He is both, as they say in the first episode, he's trying to be half a gangster, in that he is working with organized crime. He's respecting the power and the goods he gets from the money and the power and the influence that he gets from working with organized crime. But on the other hand, he doesn't really want to be a criminal. So the point of that series is you can't be half a criminal. You can't be half a gangster, I believe is the phrase. And in the course of that story, what happens is they show that he finds himself being forced by circumstances to keep getting more and more gangster. And of course that has bad consequences by the end. I don't know that they planned out exactly how many seasons they had, but they did know that the point was going to be that this guy who's trying to keep one foot in the straight life and one foot in the gangster life is slowly but surely going to get dragged into the gangster life, and that is going to have tragic consequences. That you can plan. Exactly how many seasons and exactly what happens in each season, you would be very unwise to plan because they change it. The companies that are doing these shows are constantly rethinking their schedule. They're like, hey, no one's watching this show anymore. I'm not going to give it another 4 seasons to work out its plot. They're done. Famously, what was it? Oh yeah, Ray Donovan. Ray Donovan thought, and they were like, they'd been renewed for a season, and then like at the end of one season, the network said to them, "Okay, that's it. Your series is over." And they're like, well, "Wait, we thought we had another season. The story is unfinished." So they said, "All right, we'll give you a movie," which is what they did. They said, "You can have a movie," because people were justly upset, having devoted themselves to 5 or 6 seasons of a show, and to find out that there was not going to be an ending was unsettling at best. But the point is, if it can happen to them, it can happen to anybody. Likewise, the famous story, well, it's not a famous story, but I happen to know it. There was an interview with the people who had done the TV show Damages. Very, very highly regarded show, gave them a lot of clout. Netflix gave them a deal on their next show. Netflix wanted to buy their prestige into Netflix. This was a while back. They did and the show was called Blood. Damn, I can't remember the series, but the name of the show. But I'll get it in a minute. But they were promised by Netflix that they could have 7 seasons, and they did interviews at the beginning of the first season saying, "Oh, great, we got this amazing deal. We've got a promise from Netflix that they will let us work out this story over 7 seasons." And then Netflix's business model changed, and they said, "Well, you don't get 7 seasons. You get 3." Because at the end of the 3rd season of Netflix shows at that time, everyone got to renegotiate their contract, and it was just going to be extraordinarily expensive. Because if somebody sets a 3-season contract, and then they become important to the series and the show becomes famous, they can say, "Well, if you want me to do season 4, 5, 6, you've got to pay me twice as much." And all of a sudden the budget of the show just goes crazy. So as a result, Netflix, quite famously for a while there, simply said, all shows are 3 seasons. Now the problem was, hold on, I have to look this up. This show, Kyle Chandler was in it, and Bloodline. There we go. Okay, Bloodline. It's actually a really good show, but the 3rd season, the last few episodes suddenly jam in like 2-3 seasons worth of plot changes and events into 2 or 3 hours, because they thought they had 7 seasons. It turned out they had 3. So I still highly recommend it. Bloodline. It's a terrific show on Netflix. Really well written, really well acted, beautifully directed. It's a really good show. But the last season gets kind of jammed up a little because it's clear that they suddenly didn't have the room they thought they did. Anyway, so the answer is, how do you plan on writing a 5-6 season long show? You plan the season that you're doing, because that one you get, and then you plan a rough shape that can be moved or condensed depending on whether you find out you only have a 2-hour movie or it's 3 seasons. You just don't know. Anyway, hi Nacho, good to see you. Yeah, Bloodline is kind of unfairly forgotten right now. I think Bloodline is terrific. Just some really good writing, just beautifully done characters, and I just think it's good. Anyway, so let's get back to this. I like that Cameron is wise beyond their years. I am making that a statement instead of a question. So we are going to say that this is an important thing about Cameron. Okay. So the thing that we need to know moving that coming of age stuff to McLean, because I think McLean is actually having the coming of age story in one way. The point about most important thing that we know about Cameron is close to Xena. Okay, so these are just facts about Cameron that I am choosing to make fact. Okay, Cameron is wise beyond their years. But Cameron's main relationship is with Xena. Xena is evil. So, this is a story about someone safe and relatively privileged and who has to deal with evil. Okay. In other words, Cameron appears to be able to deal with anything and has to deal with the fact that this person that they admire is evil. You are entirely welcome. I don't know how to pronounce Joao, so please let me. I don't know how you would let me know that, but tell me if I'm getting close. Joao. Anyway, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm really glad that you are here. Welcome. Okay, so. Okay, so the whole point of this story is going to be that Cameron has to deal with evil, like wow problem, like problem scale evil. So, hola Laura, welcome. Well, I don't know about eating out, but it's certainly good to have you here. Is there an example of a TV show or movie that you think has premise and potential but failed to deliver? Tons, but at the moment, I want to try and work on this thing with Cameron because I'm on a roll here. Boom. Let's oops, I made a big mistake. All right, okay, there we go. Okay, I was a screen grabbing something. I like to screen grab your questions, folks, so that I don't forget them. What does Cameron do in the face of evil? That is the big question. Okay, now we can stop this because I've come up with at least the question. This is the important thing. You may not figure everything out, but try to write down the question. That is the big thing. Yes, Kyle Chandler is. It's nice to see him. Yeah. By the way, if you want to see Kyle Chandler in a not government official role, Friday Night Lights, which is a terrific show. Terrific show. I had no interest in high school football, but I'm telling you, it's a really good show. Oh, good. Thank you. Yes, Cameron is going to find out too much. Exactly. Yes. Thank you. No problem. Example of a TV show that has premise and failed to deliver. There's just so many. So many. It's actually easier for me to talk about good things. Partly because I don't want to. I want to try not to trash things upon. If possible, this is sort of like a good closing rant. If possible, don't say negative things. Just that simple. If possible, I mean, there's a legitimate value as a student of an art form to saying to Sithu's question about is there a show that had premise or potential but failed to deliver. You need to study that. You need to look at the things that you think don't work in order to say why. Okay, I'm going to do one, but I feel badly doing it. But there was a show called The Shrink Next Door. It was, I believe, on Apple TV. Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell. It was based on a true story. It was based on a podcast about a guy who got into a decades-long inappropriate relationship with his shrink. Inappropriate not in a sexual way, inappropriate in a their lives became too personally entangled and financially entangled and personally entangled. Um, it's a fascinating story. I don't think that show was that great at. Here's the thing: it's still worth watching in many ways. The story itself is interesting. There are certain scenes and performances that are very powerful. But overall, I would say that The Shrink Next Door had promise and potential, but failed to deliver, in my opinion. And in many things that they did well. Like I said, I watched the whole thing. I'm not saying like just because something fails to deliver on its premise or its potential does not mean it's not worth watching. For me, depends on how much time you have in life. All right, so there we go. I am going to say so long. I'm going to check my calendar and see if, at least in theory, I will be here Monday. Never know what's going to happen, but it looks like Monday and Tuesday I will be here. And you're welcome. No. It's good. It's good. Yeah, it's all good. I like doing these. I like answering these questions. The problem is sometimes I'm like, for all of us, this should be the case. Hopefully, you get involved in a run on the work. That's good. You can't tell when I am or not. That's why I tell you. That's just communication. No harm, no foul. All good. You are welcome. Everything's good. We're all doing all right. And I am going to say, have a great weekend. Go write something.